Welcome to Inside UNCW Veteran Edition. I'm Joanna DeMott, the Military Program Coordinator for UNCW's Office of Military Affairs. Inside UNCW Veteran Edition is an interview series that offers an opportunity to hear more about UNCW's employees and their military experience. Why do we care? Stories create community, enable us to see through the eyes of other people, and open us to the experience of others. I'm joined today by John Scherer, Army veteran and UNCW General Counsel. How are you today, John?
All good.
I've heard a little bit of your story here and there when you came on Mildly Entertaining. That was really great. And I'm excited.
Hopefully I was mildly entertaining. Okay.
You absolutely were. You fulfilled all of the requirements for that podcast. And I just wanted to learn a little bit more. And I think
Sure.
our viewers would like to know a little bit more too. So I'm just going to dive right in.
Okay.
What do you want others to think of when they hear that you're a veteran?
Well, I'd say, first of all, that I had done something beyond myself, that I had tried to do something, I guess, sort of bigger than myself. I'm deeply committed to issues related to veterans. I have really, for the last couple of years, I've been on the North Carolina Veterans Commission for the state. And, we have been involved in, we manage the retirement facilities and the cemeteries, veterans cemeteries, and the scholarship program for children of vets. And I'm really committed and deeply committed to those issues. And so what I want folks to think of with me or any veteran is that it's more than just having served, it's being committed to continue to serve our colleagues.
Yes, fantastic. So you served, but you never stopped. So you're using your experience and your time now to make the experience for other veterans better. I love
Sure. I think that's an obligation we all have.
Amazing. Why did you join the Army?
Well, I guess, it's kind of bluntly, I kind of did it for the money. When I was in high school, my parents said, look, and my parents, were kind of upper middle class family. My dad's a lawyer, my mom's a school teacher, or was. So my parents said, look, we can pay for you to go to college in West Virginia, where I grew up. But if you want to attend anything private or out of state, you're going to need to find money. And so I looked into, the service academies. I was actually I was accepted and admitted to the Naval Academy pending a physical. And I'm colorblind. So they said no dice to me there, which in the end probably was a good thing, because I don't know if I would have done well with hospital corners for 4 years. But so I was trying to find money, and so I applied for and got an ROTC scholarship with the Army. And at the time, you got 4 years of your tuition and all paid wherever you went, and you got a stipend, and you had a 4-year active duty and 4 years reserve commitment afterwards. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And as it turned out, it was wonderful for me that I was able to do that. And I went to a little school, Davidson College, that I could never have afforded, as private college without that money.
Excellent. So Army ROTC, no Naval Academy for you. I know our Naval Academy grads will scoff at that, but
they apparently care about color. I don't know,
Blue's important. Yeah, that's great. So Army ROTC. So how did you find out about the ROTC program?
It's interesting. I think I really, I'm ancient, so this was pre-internet days. But it was sort of, I sort of had to, I think I actually did talk to the local recruiter, and then, I think the recruiter kept calling me for about 5 years afterwards, trying to get me to sign up for the Army. And I was like, dude, I'm already signed up. But I think I got the information through there. And then, of course, um, you know, got that snail mail, package. It came in and looked at it, and sort of, we didn't really, my guidance counselor didn't really help. I mean, not hammering, him or her, but I mean, they just didn't have that information readily handy where I grew up.
So this is going to be different than those new students out there who may have gone online or seen a
Sure.
billboard and went to a website. This is a different time frame. So,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
not that long ago. But
Lucky them.
what do you think is one thing that you learned that you wouldn't have had you not served?
I think probably what I really learned was sort of how to be very adaptable to sort of any circumstance, and how to try to handle and manage immediate responsibility with a lot of independence. And, finally, I'd say probably how to work and how to interact in a very diverse environment with very driven, talented people. Those are sort of the things I really got out of it. And, quote, grew up a lot that way.
Sure, you're going to be working with people who come from all over the country. So one of the most diverse working situations that you could be popped into. You never know who's going to be next to you, if they even are from a state in America, or if they came from
Sure.
a country to serve. That's interesting. So that flexibility and that diversity, that's
That was great.
yeah, that's great. Um, is there somebody that you really looked up to while you were serving?
Yeah, I think probably a lot of officers have this experience, but probably the person I most looked up to when I came into the JAG Corps, which is, the Army's legal corps. I was a young officer, and an NCO took care of me. And I think that, most folks probably, at least hopefully, had that experience. And so the NCO that I looked up to, I was in the criminal law division in our office, handling, prosecuting courts martial and doing work related to misdemeanor offenses that happen on the post, like DUIs and assaults and that kind of stuff with the federal system. So he was a E6. I think he was an E5, E6 when I got there. And so he, immediately understood sort of how they did things, and sort of how we handled cases and how we got ready for cases. But more important for me, he knew how to be a soldier. And I was a knucklehead. I didn't know how to be a soldier. I mean, I'd had ROTC, I knew some of the basics, and I'd been through, Fort Bragg in the summer and all that glorious stuff, and small unit tactics, all that jazz. But I didn't know day to day sort of how to look like a soldier, how to, act like one, how to dress appropriately, so there were many things that he did for me like that. And also just, he was, and still is, by the way, just an incredibly loyal person, and an incredibly strong leader himself. In fact, he ended up becoming Sergeant Major of the whole JAG Corps later on. And he is now an SCS working for a patent and trademark office. So he's just a super talented dude. But, one of the things that he did for me too, I'm a little guy, I'm 5'8" on my best day. He's like 6'2", 6'3". And when we had a couple of really nasty courts martials, some of them with sort of racial overtones. And he's an African-American male. He walked with me and stood with me. And, I never worried about any kind of nonsense from anybody because he didn't have to. I mean, it wasn't like he was quote security or anything like that for us or an MP, but I was like, Sergeant Tyler's around. I'm good. I'm not worried about anything on that. So good guy.
And we'll hear that from those officers who are successful, that they find themselves an NCO that they can work with and supports them, and that they can bounce ideas off of, leadership, learning leadership from the ground up. And that's really cool. That not you were so lucky to find somebody who went up in the ranks and is now a senior executive and senior executive service with the federal government. That's really cool.
Yeah. I need to be working for him now, but
It's true. It's true. It takes a lot to get up into SES and to a sergeant major rank of an entire corps like that as well. That's really great, Sergeant Tyler. All right. What was the hardest thing for you transitioning to civilian life? Do you see this? Does it shape how you work with the North Carolina Veterans Commission?
well, for one thing, I was only on active duty for 4 years, and then I did about 6-7 years I was a reserve officer, and so at that time I did a duty at U.S. Army Claims Service, reviewing and sort of investigating claims against the Army. So for me, since I was in for 4 years active duty, I guess probably the transition wasn't nearly what somebody's would be if they were in, 20 years, for example, or longer. But I think the one thing I missed, the biggest transition for me was just that camaraderie and mission at work was not what it was when I was on active duty. And, it's not to kind of quote slam civilian life in that sense, but it's harder to find that in the civilian world than what you had in the military. And it's also harder to have those relationships with people you work with that really are sort of broader than just working with them. Because, the people I worked with and the lawyers I worked with in the military, we were friends. We were more than just, hey, your coworkers during the day. And it's a little harder to find that in the quote civilian world, So that was the biggest adjustment, I'd say.
I can see that shaping the university, but also different companies that I've worked with, really trying to create this mission and vision that the employees back and support and think about in their everyday life, and how difficult that is in the civilian world, but how it came so easily when you were active duty. I think that's,
Sure.
I'd love to see that more at the university, us really realizing that mission and vision every day.
Yeah, and I've worked for state or federal government, and of course, the university is part of state government my career. And I know why. I crave that sort of mission, and I crave that sort of public service piece more than, look, we all would like to make more money. But to me, I need to be satisfied that my work is more than just I'm making somebody money. There's a higher purpose to it. And, look, that's not for everybody. I get it. And that's certainly, everybody's different in what they need or want. It just, I know for myself, that's what I strive for.
And we'll see that too. And I'm sure at the Veterans Commission, you'll see people kind of meander around and find a place that really supports their mission,
Sure.
mission and finds that important. And for our veteran employees and those supporting them in our audience, that's important. If you can tie their specific job title or requirements to a vision or a mission, it makes it easier to support and really be excited about what you do.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of our, one of my things I'm very concerned about is just us as an institution, the state in general, but certainly us as an institution doing a better job recruiting and retaining veterans as employees, because I think we're just missing out on an untapped source for us.
Absolutely. And you stated before, being able to be dropped into any kind of organization with people from anywhere and really being able to execute a mission is a pretty valuable skill that's really difficult to articulate on a resume. And I
Absolutely.
agree with you. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. So wonderful. Now I'm going to take you down to my soapbox kind of piece that I like to ask
Okay.
everybody about. What do you think about thank you for your service? How does it make you feel when and if someone says it to you?
Well, I mean, first of all, I appreciate it. I mean, I think, we've had times in our country that have not always, folks haven't expressed, appreciation for our veterans and what they've done. So I think that's important. I also don't think I'm particularly that worthy of it compared to many others. I mean, certainly, I never, on active duty, I didn't serve overseas. I didn't serve in a wartime. I wasn't in deployed multiple times like many of our folks have been today. But I think what I would hope is that what it makes me feel and what I hope it makes other folks think about is we need to do a better job for our veterans. We need to make sure that they have the educational opportunity they deserve, whether that's for job training, whether that's for going to college, whether that's for, learn a trade. We need to make sure that they have access to the best health and mental health care they can get. We need to make sure that they have opportunity to find a job and, retain a job and have adequate housing. All these things that we owe them. I mean, bluntly, to me, it's nice, and I think it's important for folks to say thank you, but I also think each of us has an obligation to ensure that we're holding our leaders, shall we say, accountable to make sure these things happen for our veterans, because, they don't deserve anything less. They deserve, they made this bargain and they made this sacrifice, and we owe them all that, in my opinion.
So we need to go beyond that. So it's more than just the surface level saying thank you and making yourself feel good for appreciating somebody. It's actually putting action behind that.
Absolutely. And I'm not belittling. I mean, I think it's nice that people thank someone for their service. And I think that's good. But it's just, we've had discussions on campus. And for example, I think it's wonderful that we have named Veterans Hall in honor of our veterans. I think that's a great thing. But what's more important to me, at least, is what are we doing for our veterans on campus apart from having a building named after them? How are we making sure that they are getting the education they need and want, and the support they need and want on campus? And I mean, I know y'all are doing great work in the military affairs office, on campus. And that's crucial stuff for our vets,
What I've noticed since coming to UNCW is that I have had no problem collaborating across the campus and finding people who understand how important this population is to support. And I'm really grateful for that opportunity and for the people who do support. And I love when we have a conversation about thank you for your service, and we invite people to say a little bit more, to find out a little bit more, hear these stories like yours and like the others that we'll post, and really understand what the population is about and how they can help. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think, the thing is that everybody's busy. Everybody's dealing with a lot during COVID. Everybody's dealing with, their own issues. But I think I think a lot of people do want to help. It's not that they're like, okay, I don't care about vets, for example. They do want to help. It's just how can we, provide them the opportunity and provide them with ideas on how they can get involved.
Love it. Anybody who is out there, UNCW employees, you're always welcome to stop into the Military Resource Lounge and find out more. Contact any of us. We're always happy to do that. And as you can see, we have friends across campus who are happy to chat about that as well.
Absolutely.
Is there anything you think
I'm sad that, sorry, I was just going to say, I'm sad that COVID, I haven't had a chance to be over in Veterans Hall yet. It's supposed to be wonderful.
It really is a beautiful building, and it's one of the things that I can talk about with people outside in the community to say, look, we really do support, look at this. It's a tangible piece that we can say we support there, but that we are trying more to be veteran inclusive rather than just veteran friendly. And I know that it's wonderful to know that you support and that so many other people do support. I love to get a crazy or a funny story or a story you always tell people when you start talking about service.
Wow. Okay.
Something safe for work, of course.
That's a good question. Wow. I hadn't thought about that one. Well, one of the things that we used to do is, this is kind of a lawyer story, but in a sense that, you would often have to talk with young soldiers about their problems. And, they would come to you with sort of issues related to they'd gotten in trouble, whether that was in the community, making poor decisions about, getting a loan on a car that's, 20% loan, something ridiculous, or just making a poor decision disciplinary wise. And so we would have a soldier would come in and you would talk to them about whether they should take what's called an Article 15 versus try to, which is administrative punishment, or demand a courts martial. In other words, go to trial. And most of the time it's better for the soldier not to go to trial. It's worse punishment and potentially, and, a lot of tough, potential discipline there. So I had one of my friends, we would advise soldiers. And so he would have the soldiers come in and they would sit in his office and sort of, say, it's all a grand conspiracy. And, they would do that, say, the first sergeant's out to get me, the captain's out to get me, everybody's out to get me. It's like, okay, so let me guess here. They sat in office, threw a dart up on the wall and say, who am I going to get today? They're going to get Private Snuffy. Okay. That's what you're saying, right? Oh, yeah. That's it. So what we would do sometimes too, is we would say, you've got to make a decision whether you're going to have a courts martial or you're going to have, take this administrative punishment. And so we would break out the magic 8-ball. What does the magic 8-ball tell you should do? And some of these soldiers would be, I'll do whatever the magic 8-ball tells me to do. Magic 8-ball would say, take the 15, don't go to, so we would do that sometimes. Or have, one of my friends had a terrarium like thing, and he had a little action figure in there that would hold up the sign. He'd say, look in the terrarium. And there would be the, Captain Kirk action figure saying, take the 15. So we would, it's, the kind of stuff, more lawyer humor than anything else, probably.
To put humor in somebody getting in trouble, that's for sure. And if you can make them laugh in as serious a situation they might be in, that's a good.
Some of them actually did, so yeah.
I love it. I want to thank you so much for coming on today, John.
Happy to talk anytime. And I do think that, y'all are doing great work over Military Resource Center. It's important work for the university. The university, is very concerned about diversity, but veterans are part of that diversity and are an important part of it. And, one of the things that I talked to the chancellor about is we also need to think about disabled veterans. We've got plenty of disabled veterans who really want and need the education we offer because, this is an opportunity to change lives on our campus.
It absolutely is. And we are always looking for creative ways to support our military affiliated population and especially our veterans. So I really do appreciate your support as
Sure.
general counsel and in the community in North Carolina in general. It really does make a difference.
Happy to help.
I hope the audience has enjoyed my conversation today with John Scherer. See you next time.